What up, Detroit Lions of the Prowl family? Now it's time for the main course, what we talked about today, what the Lions may do with Big V.
Welcome back, everybody, and we're going to go to the main course now. Big year for Big V. All right,
Okay.
let's go to Curt.
All right, now there's a lot of things happening right now with the Detroit Lions, but Big V is going to have a big year. Think about this, right? I don't think Brad Holmes would have made the move to bring him on the roster if he was the general manager last year, at least not at that salary. Think about this. He's getting paid to be a right tackle, but he's being pushed in to right guard.
Yep.
So, he's not playing what he came here to, and what they're paying him to be. So they paying him at right tackle money to play right guard. And the guy has the third biggest contract on the roster. That's something. So you look at where his salary cap hit would be this year. If the Lions would cut him after June 1st, that's a $10 million cap hit. That is freaking huge. So if now the big thing now, I don't think that they will do this, but maybe if they find a trade partner, his trade value, the Lions will only be on the hit for 1.4 million of that because that's the signing bonus, and they could move him to somewhere, maybe a team who maybe need a offensive right tackle and not a right guard. You look at what Hank Fraley said the other day. He said that Tyrell Crosby may be competing with Big V for that right guard position. I'm like, wow, you have to look at the mentality of what's going on with the Lions. This regime is not the one who signed Big V. And they drafted his replacement. I mean, you really look at it like they're like, look here, guy. The writing's on the wall for Big V. I just think that it may be where he has to show and improve in camp, in OTAs, or the Lions may be looking on to move on from him just because of the fact that with the salary implications and what's going on the roster, they want guys to compete, and he just hasn't lived up to what he was built for to come to the Detroit Lions, come in to play right tackle, and due to no really fault of his own, injury bug. But I just think that this is a byproduct of the Lions reaching for him and Bob Quinn just making another bonehead deal. What you got, Mike?
Yeah, definitely start off with it was a bonehead deal. You don't give a guy who's been primarily a backup, but it's like he's kind of like the sixth man on the offensive line. You don't give that guy a $50 million contract. You don't. Not because he played good one game. We've had players in the past who had one good game, okay, and we signed them to a big contract. You know what I'm saying? So I mean that was a bad mistake. But you got to think of how Big V has to feel when he's like, okay, I'm about to be healthy. I'm returning to form. I'm about to be strong. And they're like, wait a minute, yeah, you drafted the right tackle. Oh man, okay, so okay, you want me to slide down the guard permanently, is what you're saying. And but I just don't know any guards that are making that salary. I don't. So it's tough, man. It's really tough. He's in a tough position. The only possible thing I could think of that would never happen, but it's just a random possibility is maybe they do something with Decker. I don't know. Decker's like he's a top guy, so I wouldn't see why. But I mean, maybe that Polynesian connection. Maybe they think we got that side locked, and maybe they're willing to heavily invest in the O line. That could also be a possibility because you remember the Dallas Cowboys at one point in time had so much money wrapped up in that offensive line. And look what it did. So that could be another thing, but it'll all come to sense once the season starts and the rest of the moves are played out. If we sign a guard, we bring somebody else on, it might smell doom for him. But I think Big V's safe for now, man. He got his Polynesian brother there, man. They safe, What you think, Jim?
I think he's safe this year, and the reason I think he's safe this year is the contract. Not that it's going to kill him to trade him, but who wants to take on that kind of contract for a person that's not even proven in the NFL? I mean, they were talking about trading Terrell Crosby because Terrell Crosby's contract is better. He started in the league at right tackle. He's a cheaper player. I mean, and he's a younger player. I believe he's younger. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's younger. I thought he's younger. Anyway, so, I mean, it's just a more attractive trade piece than Big V would be. Now, Big V getting kicked into guard, I was fine with that, but maybe there's still some lingering injury stuff going on because I'm looking at the Terrell Crosby thing that he might be kicking the tires on a guard there. We have signed quite a few guards in the practice squad. We still have Logan Stenberg out there. I'm sure there's a milk carton out there somewhere for him. He's been missing in action for a while now. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's a lot of pieces to this offensive line. And that guard spot is the only spot that's questionable to me right now. And then the talk of Trey Turner, if you get him, where's Big V? You know, and that's kind of the thing. I don't know if they get an exemption for cutting him. I don't know if he could get cut, even though he makes this much money. But I don't think you do that. I think you ride him out for this season. That's why I say this is such a big year for Big V, because if Big V can return to the mauler that he could be, he'd make a really good guard. And I think the offensive line would be solid. If he's still injured or there's still problems with him where his footwork is really bad still, it's better for him to be a guard. But I don't think that's going to be a good thing for the Lions.
Yeah.
So,
and to Mike's point, one of the things that what you just said about about him getting that contract, and and he's been he's moved line to positions because he played a couple positions in Philly, mm-hmm. right tackle, right guard. Basically, the Lions gave. Just think about this. They gave a $50 million contract to a Terrell Crosby type.
Yeah.
That's what they did. They gave that big money contract to a guy who is a backup or a swing player. And, that's just goes to the mentality of like, thank you, NFL, for just suggesting that we have Bob Quinn as a general manager.
You know what the NFL, hey, Curt, you know what the NFL stands for, right? Not for Lions.
Not for Lions. But you just look at that. You look at that whole regime and those moves that they made, and yes, he's hit. I can't say that Bob Quinn didn't hit on anything because he did hit on a couple players as far as Ragnow and
Decker.
Some other player, Decker, and but a lot of the players. Ooh, swing and a miss. I mean, that baseball bat, he was swinging and missing in that draft room with that baseball bat, or just in the office when he was signing free agents, just because. And then some of the stuff was still he gave Fatty Patty what he wanted, and that was a whole bunch of backup expatriates. So, but the Big V thing for me is one of those things where you're gonna have to look at this regime's like. What can we do to remedy our offensive line? And we got to create competition because that's what big thing for Dan Campbell and his coaching staff was creating competition. And no matter how big your contract is, your job isn't safe.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I think the best five will play.
Yeah, and and for some fans, and I could understand why they would be kind of pissed off because you're paying a guy $10 million this year to sit on the bench if he doesn't make first string.
So that's not their fault though. And it's not their problem either. Really, because hey, Bob Quinn was dumb enough to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think this is part of the reason that they're handcuffed a little bit this year, just because of the boneheaded contracts that they gave those expatriate players too.
Yeah.
Like Trey Flowers and, some of that stuff too. I mean, they're handcuffed to him and Jamie Collins for another year. So I don't. They don't have the wiggle room that they could have, but boy, did they do a good job of what they had.
Yeah,
Bob Quinn, man, I'm telling you right now, if I had to let somebody hold my money, it wouldn't be him. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what?
You right about that.
Right, man.
Hey, man, can you hold a couple dollars for me? Nah. You know what? I'm good. I ain't letting you hold nothing. You know what? I'm good.
I'm good. I'm good. But the thing with Big V is this this is his deciding season with Detroit. I think he's gone after this year, unless he just comes out and becomes the mauler that he can be, especially in the run game. I believe that he's a very strong person, and I think that in the run game he could be very good. And if you sandwich him between Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell, you can't be that bad.
Right. Yeah, he'll have to restructure. He'll have to. Like,
Absolutely.
there's no doubt about it. He's restructuring that contract if he wants to stay.
Yep.
Definitely.
I think he's gone after this year, but it's a big year for him because he's playing for a contract. He's playing for it to live up to that deal.
He's playing for either, his future in the NFL is being being played for this season. Definitely.